Okay, Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to my students in Form 4N. Alright, so how are you today? I'm hoping all of you are in the pink of health. Right, so for today's lesson, we are going to look at the extended AC. Okay, we are going to focus on how you should write a story. So extended essay is the last part of your writing paper. Okay, it is part 3. Okay, without further ado, let's have a look on how to write story. Okay, so here's a little bit about myself. Okay, my name is Shahania Limited Sharizan. Right, so here's my academic qualification. Now let's jump into extended essay. So what is extended essay? Or it is also known as continuous writing. Continuous writing or extended essay is the longest part of essay, right? This part of essay is the most crucial and the most important part in writing essay. Okay? For this part of extended essay, it requires you to write for about 200 to 250 words. Okay, so basically in extended essay we have uh, a few components in extended essay, which are, okay, writing a story. Okay, and then we have descriptive writing, a review, factual writing, argumentative writing, open or free writing, reflective writing, a narrative writing, and also an article or report. So we have basically nine uh, items, okay, nine uh, types of continuous writing. Okay, so I have explained a little bit about extended essay and the types of extended essay. And our focus for today will be writing a story. Okay, story, as I mentioned before, story is also a part of extended essay or continuous writing. Okay, have a look at what is story. Okay, story is about the way you explain about the right. So what is story? Story is an account of past events in someone's life or in the development of something, meaning to say the progress in the person's life. Okay, what is going on with that person, what is happening to that person, right? Or to some extent of events, right? And also story is also an account of imaginary or real people and event told for entertainment. And story is also an account of incidents or events, so what is really happening during the event. Okay, so that will be put in the essay, in the story. Okay, so basically, story is about the things that happened towards persons or events, or what actually revolve around the story. Okay, now we are going to look at how to write story. Okay. Okay. So in writing is sorry. Pause. Okay, now we are going to look how to write a story. Okay, in writing a story, okay, first of all, we have to narrate personal experience. Okay, depends on the question. Sometimes the question is asking about personal experience. Okay, so you have to narrate your personal experience. For example, the topic for your essay is an unforgettable experience. So basically, it's about your experience. And then a dream comes true. Okay, it's about your dream. And a close encounter, and etc. Okay, that is about the personal experience. Second is about writing imaginary story. In writing imaginary story, for example, a narrow escape, okay, a kidnap. Imaginary story is a story that you have to imagine yourself. It is not from your personal experience, but it is from your imagination. Okay, so you have to imagine that yourself are in the story, okay, and you have to tell the story according to the topic. For example, a kidnap. You haven't been kidnapped, okay, you have no experience in being the victims of kidnapping, and then how you are going to write the story. So that's why we write here imaginary story. Okay, you have to come up with the imaginary story. Okay, and then you have to write a story based on given opening line or closing line. So usually in story, for this extended type of essay, usually they will give you an opening line like the one that we did in in PAT. We uh, you encountered the story with a given opening line. Okay, so usually it will ask you to start the essay with blah blah blah. Right? For example, when I reached home, I saw the door open, for example, right? And then continue your story. So this is basically from the opening line, or sometimes the essay is using the closing line. Okay, you should end the story with I think this was an unforgettable event, for example, right? Okay, then write a story based on a proverb or saying. Okay, so for example given is a rolling stone gathers no moss. So you have to know the meaning of the proverbs or the saying in order for you to write the essay. Okay, so meaning to say you should have a list of proverbs or saying that you are uh, you know the meaning and you know how to use it, right? So that is to write a story based on a proverb or saying. Okay, next, the past tense is normally being used. Okay, during writing a story, usually we will use past tense. Okay, so when you're writing extended essay for this type of um, continuous writing, uh, you normally will use past tense. Okay, because it is a story and your story must be as original as possible. Okay, your story should come from you. You cannot copy someone else, or you memorize a story. Okay, and then you put in your when you write a story, you take the one that you remembered, okay, and you put it as a story. So that would be um, that will be not be original. Okay, so basically the story is from yourself, so your story must be as original as possible. Okay, the length of writing for extended essay for this type of story, you have to write in about 200 to 250 words. Okay, what happen if you write less than 200, and what happen if you write more than 250 words? If you write less than 200, okay, usually it will not your essay will not um, have enough information. And if you write more than 250 words, for example 300 words, you might uh, have you might not have enough time for the other parts of essay, which is part 1 and part 2. Right now, let's have a look on the uh, how to write a story. Okay, I have explained before. Okay, the the flow of sorry, I have explained a little bit on how to write a story. Now let's look at how to write or how to plan your story. Okay, first, for introduction, what you need to do is you must write a title, provide a title. And then the second one in the introduction, provide the time and the setting or background of the story where possible. And number three, introduce the characters of the story. For body or main points, you have to narrate the story in 4 to 5 paragraphs. So as usual, I have taught you in class before. Okay, when you're writing, when you want to write essay, make sure for extended essay, write 4 to 5 paragraphs. Okay, for main points, okay, body or main points, develop your story in logical sequence. Okay, logical sequence means in a in a logic order. All right. So first, what happened, and then what happened next, and what happened next. So don't jump into the, for example, don't jump straight away to the climax of the story. You have to go through the expositions of the story. Okay, and then use sentence connectors. Okay, I have given you a few um, a list of sentence connectors. Okay, or also known as cohesive devices. So you can use that in order to make your story be more cohesive and coherent. Right. Next is in body and main points, you may also use short dialogues to make the story looks interesting. Okay, so when the reader read your story, the reader or the examiner will feel that your story is real. Okay, will make the story looks real and interesting. Okay, so you may use a short dialogue, not all the story in dialogue, just a part of it. Okay, and then for the last one is conclusion. So provide a suitable ending. Most of you did not have the conclusion. You have the introduction, but when it comes to conclusions, you don't have it. Okay, so meaning to say your essay is not complete. Okay, so you have to provide a suitable ending. And then if you write an essay about something that is not good, for example, about kidnap just now, so what is the moral or message in the story? So you have to write a little bit about moral value or message in the story. Okay, so I have explained about the how to write a story, the flow or the plan in writing a story. So basically, we should have the introduction, body or main points, and also conclusion. I'm going to show you one example or one sample of essay for this part. Okay, let's have a look at sample answer. Okay, so write your answers in 200 to 250 words in an appropriate style. Write a story beginning with, I could tell by his face that he was disappointed. Okay, so you have to underline, I could tell by his face that he was disappointed. Please underline this line, this opening line, because at the beginning of your essay, this line should be in your essay. Okay? So if you look at the sample answer, I could tell by his face that he was disappointed. He must have he must have lodged the match. Okay, the singles finals of the Finning Schools Badminton Tournament. So basically, this is the introduction, a fairly short paragraph of 3 to 4 sentences. Okay, so remember introduction, you should write a fairly short paragraph of 3 to 4 sentences. And then let's have a look at the second paragraph. He was not even looking at me. I wondered what I should do to console him. Plucking up my courage, I approached him and asked casually. So that is the main idea one with elaboration. Okay, use of a short dialogue. Okay, if you look at the sample given, hi Azrul, how did you fare in the final? Without looking up, he replied, I lost. So, remember, if you use dialogue or short dialogues in the essay, you have to use the inverted comma, right? You have to use the inverted comma, okay, to show that it is a dialogue, that you use a dialogue in your essay. So we have the opening, and then we have the closing, right? And then, okay, right now, okay, just now we have learned about how to use a short dialogue. So remember, as I told you before, please use the inverted comma when you use short dialogues. And then let's have a look at the Azrul. The next paragraph, Azrul lamented that luck was not with him. He had won the first set convincingly and was leading by 18-5 in the second set. Okay, that is the main idea too with elaboration. So when you give idea, you have to elaborate. And then on the next paragraph is the further explanation, right? And then additional informations, you have to put some additional informations, right, to make your story looks interesting. And the last one is thanks for your advice, said Azrul with a nod. I will put my loss behind me and I promise to work harder for the next championship. So basically this is ending with a message. Alright. So this is a sample answers for writing a story. I think you have now a clear view on how to write extended essay for story. Okay, now let's have a look at the practice. Okay, I have briefed you about how to write a story and then what are the useful informations. Okay, okay, now write a story about 200 to 250 words. Try to be as original as possible. Okay, here are some useful tips. Okay, you have to write about a strange encounter. Okay, a strange encounter. So these are basically some of the useful tips that you can use in order to help you to write the essay. Okay, we have here introduction. Mention the place and time and what you were doing there. Body. Okay, so this is body or main points. How did the encounter come about and what was your reaction? Narrate further the encounter using short dialogues. Then describe any scary or peculiar happenings and your reaction. How did you wriggle yourself out of the encounter? Conclusion, any lesson learned. So basically your essay should cover all this in order to make your essay looks interesting and pleased to read. Okay, now let's have a look at some of the useful vocabulary. Okay, so these are basically the vocabulary that you may use in your story. Okay, so here are some of the vocabulary. So I think that's all for today's lesson, right? Please write a story about a strange encounter in about 200 to 250 words. Remember, try to be as original as possible because story is representing yourself. Okay, it's about you, how you can be creative, how you can be imaginative. The story, if you read the story looks dull and not interesting. You have to put some of the elements, surprise elements. You have to put something that are going to arouse the people's interest to read. Okay, if you read your story and you don't feel the surprise, you don't feel the the attractiveness of your AC, meaning to say your story is not up to the level of um, an A story. So you have to write a story that is going to make your AC looks more interesting, okay, and attract people to read. All right. However, please remember, don't write too much, meaning to say don't write until 350 words or 300 words, okay? Because you have part 1 and you have also guided essay part 2. Okay, I'm afraid if you put so much of your time in the part 3, you might not have enough time to do part 1 and also part 2, right? So divide your time equally, right? And then write story in about this length, okay? 200 and 250 words. Okay, please write the essay about a strange encounter and then submit to me by um, if possible, submit to me by 1:30 p.m. today. Right? So I'm expecting 22 of you are going to submit the essay. So I think, uh, sorry, we have a little bit here and additional informations about the characters of a story. So antagonist is the character who opposes the protagonist. Usually antagonist is the bad one. The protagonist is the leading character in a fictional text. And also we have tertiary characters. You can read about this. Alright. Okay, I think that's all for today. If you have any questions or anything to ask, please don't hesitate. Please message me. Okay, I'm going to help you. I'm going to guide you. So don't worry. Any questions, please directly message me. I think that's all for today. Thank you, class. Assalamualaikum.